post-millennial, millions may flee New York City if Mamdani elected mayor. JL Partners poll. The poll found that 25% would consider packing their bags to head out, which would amount to 2.12 million. Yeah, consider is not the same as would leave, but a lot of people would. Around 765,000 New York City residents would be prepared to leave the Big Apple, according to the poll. The current population of New York is around 8.5 million, which is way down, which is crazy. The poll found that 9% of New Yorkers would definitely leave the city. However, the poll also found that 25% would also consider packing their bags to head out, which would amount to 2.12 million. The poll highlighted the alarm many feel as Mamdani may become the next mayor of the Big Apple, and has previously called for defunding the police, has vowed to increase taxes on the wealthy and other businesses, a $30 minimum wage, as well as vowed to implement a number of other left-wing policies. The poll also asked what people thought the state of the city would be in 4 years if Mamdani was elected. Some of the terms they used were disaster, hell, chaos, destroyed, and ishhole. Those coming from Mamdani, however, used the following for terms they thought the city would be like: affordable, improved, hopeful, and changed. Additionally, 7% of those earning $250,000 or more a year would also definitely leave under a potential Mamdani term, meaning a loss of tax base, as the top 1% of earners in the Big Apple pay around half the tax base for the city. Okay, I will say this. Part of me does hope he wins. I know that we've learned our lesson with Brandon Johnson. I just kind of want to see it, because he's talking about increasing the minimum wage to $30, which is the stupidest thing imaginable. It's something a 7-year-old comes up with. Why don't we just give them more money? Then they have money for food. Oh, gee, why don't we think of that? That this guy's a retard. Then you're taxing the top 1%. They will leave. It's funny when the U.S. government tries to raise taxes on the billionaires, and then they all go to St. Kitts and Nevis and renounce their U.S. citizenship and then become island dwellers with passports that can go anywhere. But it's a bit harder to do. It's extremely easy to leave a city, especially if you're a billionaire. So what's going to happen? Every single billionaire with real estate, every millionaire with real estate, even people who make $500,000, probably going to switch their residency to Florida. And as long as they spend more than half the year in Florida, they don't got to pay New York City taxes or New York state taxes. And I think we're going to see that. They'll still fly to New York periodically for business. They'll still own property, but they are going to GTFO. I am willing to bet that if Mamdani is elected mayor, he will increase taxes. He will work with the city council to raise taxes. And then their tax revenue is going to drop because they don't understand the Laffer curve.
Kevin, Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary. Yeah, he said he got his business out of New York already.
Canadian boy.
Well, that was when they tried seizing Trump's properties.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
He said, this is nuts. No developer is going to want to go into New York if you're going to lie to try and seize their properties.
Yeah.
And they did. They did try to seize Trump's properties. It's crazy.
Like, you just need to rely on the corporatocracy to run your cities. I know that sounds horrible because we're supposed to be for the people, by the people governance, but if the corporations leave your big city is going to be a big, open, smelly, rotting cesspool without economy, and no one's going to want to go there because there's not going to be money to pay people to clean it up. It does feel like we are held hostage by the corporatocracy,
But they're creating the wealth. They're creating the jobs. You got the construction jobs on the development. You need construction workers. They're good paying jobs. You got, And can we? I have a friend who lived in the Trump Towers. A good friend of mine, very wealthy guy. He just took off and he moved to Florida. He said, "I'm out of here. I'm done. I'm done with New York."
The mom and pop shops that got hammered during COVID.
We need a new market on Kalshi for if Zoran Mamdani gets elected. Will they be forced to create a poop department like San Francisco?
Here's to praying.
Well, people say they're going to move out. If they win, I'm going to consider moving. Look happened like when Trump won. Who said like Springsteen? He said he's moving out of town.
But a lot
how many of those stars said we're moving out of the country? How many moved?
A lot of them did. Yeah. And this is crazy because
Rosie O'Donnell did. She's
Ellen and Ellen maybe. And there's a handful of others we've talked about. But the issue is leaving the country is hard.
Exactly.
Leaving a city is easy.
Yeah.
Very easy.
Especially a city that's like, especially if you are in the north. Most people that are in the north, and if they've got, if they have access to a lot of money, they don't spend all winter in New York. The winter is, personally, I'm not a fan of the winter, and it's in New York, it gets cold. A lot of people are like, I get out of there for the, as much as I can for the winter time. So if you're going to be like, oh, well, it's going to cost you a bunch of, an X amount more dollars just to live here, it's a situation where it's kind of like, well, that's the straw that broke the camel's back, I
only spent time in New York because I had to, for work, for business, as an actor. I never wanted to be there. It's like, I don't say hell on earth, but it is chaos.
I mean, I'm not a city guy anyway.
It's still a great. I mean, it's one of the greatest cities in the world, New York. To me, I got engaged there on New Year's Eve with Dick Clark one year. But it's nice. People love going to New York. Even Toronto, they compare Toronto as a mini New York, a little bit cleaner, a little bit slower than New York. But New York's a great city. It really is, and it's just a shame to see this happening. And it's a shame to see all these in Seattle. What's going on? It's. I've been to Seattle before all that crap happened out there. It's like it's so discouraging to see it happen.
I think driving in New York is what got me, because my PTSD was kicking in. I was like,
no, you don't drive in New York. That's crazy. I wouldn't even.
Foot traffic there's beautiful. It's wonderful. Maybe some dirty parts of Brooklyn, smell, but like Manhattan particularly.
If I have to go to New York, I still drive in. Yeah. I'm not a fan of it, but and I probably wouldn't take my Tesla. I'd probably take the Jeep. But even like when I go to New York, I'll drive in just because I don't like having to rely on trains.
Then do you stick it in a garage and do everything from foot? Yeah. Trying to get around, and then like, where's parking? 25 minutes later, I think I found a spot. Oh no, it's a no standing spot.
No, I used to just go and park down by where the label
actually
headquarters was.
It's actually very easy to park in New York. This is just not during business hours. So
at night it is, yeah.
Around 6 o'clock, you can park wherever you want.
Yeah.
Because everybody leaves, and then you've got like an hour before it fills back up. It's that hour where everyone's leaving work and then coming back home from those who commute from New York.
Matt, if you could put all your traffic underground, like Elon's Boring Company building these tunnels, so all of Manhattan roads, if they were underground, I know we have the subway, that'd be hard to do. But if the surface was like grass and you could walk out of those buildings and it was clean and there wasn't traffic, honking, smelling.
Bro, nobody's walking from the financial district to the Upper East Side.
This is all just.
I heard a lot of the Wall Street firms are moving to Texas. I'm up on it like you.
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
They're leaving. Those Wall Street firms are saying, we're out of here, our old team. We're going to Texas. I don't. You guys are probably up on that more than me, but
if
those guys start fleeing out of there, like I said, I worked on the floor of the stock exchange when we traded on the floor. Writing tickets out. Now with the new technology, you can almost trade. These guys are trading from home. The guys I still worked with, they're trading from home. You can trade.
If you work in finance in New York, and you have not prepared a contingency plan for a Zoran Mamdani mayoral victory, you're a moron. However, if Cuomo wins, you buy yourself some time, but you look at what they're doing to the city. I think it's only a matter of time before you get a Mamdani.
Yep, that's true too.
At least a young guy. Like it's time. It's somebody young, that for sure. Cuomo's what? 70
but the point that Tim's making is that if because of the how close this is likely to be, so even if Cuomo does win, there will be someone coming that has similar policy proposals to Mamdani, even if it's not Mamdani. It would be likely that Mamdani would run again, whenever they have another mayoral election. But this sentiment is something that is widespread in the U.S. It's not just in New York, right? Like this sentiment is the reason why AOC has the influence that she does. This sentiment is the reason why Bernie had the influence that he did, because people like that kind of left-leaning populism.
I guess maybe we need a little more socialism.
No,
I
guess we don't.
Well, hell on earth could be if you went to a city and it was owned and run by a corporation. That would be the word.
It'd be better than
you can leave.
Yeah, you can leave, and you can also you can go to a different place. You can decide you don't want to do business with that corporation or whatever. The government is the ones with the monopoly on force. It is always worse to have a big government in control of everything than a corporation in control of everything.
I don't know.
And now
a company was
it's still bad if there's one massive corporation controlling everything with private security marching around,
making you use their
so
currency.
Neither is good, but government substantially worse because they're the ones that monitor you in your homes and force you to do things you don't want to do, and they don't let you leave either, like we saw in East Germany.
Yeah, the government's supposed to just stop the corporation from becoming megacorp, but it failed. It's not supposed to create pseudo megacorp.
It is megacorp. That's what the government is. Like the idea that the government is going to prevent the megacorp, the government already is the megacorp. And they're the ones with the monopoly on violence.
They're supposed to stop, like Standard Oil, what they did to Rockefeller, Standard Oil. They're supposed to break up monopolies, but they go overseas now, so there's no way to stop it.
They're not really supposed to do that. So governments have, in my opinion, governments should have a very limited amount of power, and there should be a very few specific things that they are allowed to do. And breaking up monopolies, to me, generally, there is not something that they should be doing.
That only problem is like the East India Company. When you start to see corporations get so big, they become governments of their own, and then they use scrip instead of dollars. You don't have a
what
dollar.
happened to the East India Company?
Well, it controlled India.
What happened to it? Why is it not still in control?
I don't know how it fell up, what it ended up turning into.
Because it doesn't remain in power the way governments do. Corporations.
Yeah, interesting. All the governments from back then are functioning. In fact, there's new ones emerging. But the company itself is gone.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Why did it fail?
There's another funny point that somebody made is that far-right governments tend to slowly dissolve and far-left go nuclear, kill a bunch of people, and then go belly up. So, like, you look at Spain, and it's like the far-right took over, and then he died, and they're like, I guess we'll have elections. The far-left runs everyone to the ground, massacres millions, and then implodes from lack of human capability.
The far left will tell you it's communist, but then they'll create vanguardist systems, and then they'll keep telling you it's communist, and so they have to
try to defend communism, but I don't think you know what that word means.
They're not really communists. They kill to protect their power, whereas in the right, he's just straight up like, yo, I'm the power. And everyone knows ahead of time they're not lying to you, and then when he dies, there's a power vacuum that everyone's been expecting. But on the left, they make you think it's not. They make you think it's normal to have this communist group. And so the
problem with the left, Michael Malice put it succinctly a couple of years ago. Do you think some people are better than others? The left says no. The right says yes. The view on the left is that billionaires are the same as they are. I mean, this is really the arrogance of the left. They look at Elon Musk and Donald Trump and they say, those people are stupid. And I'm sitting here being like, listen, you can call Donald Trump a lot of things. You can call him brash, but the man became a billionaire because he understood something. And these people, you ask these leftists, why aren't you a billionaire? And they go, because I'm not willing to be evil. Like, no, it's because you're too stupid to navigate the system to make yourself wealthy and successful. That's the reality. You know what the funny thing is about the right? The right recognizes their own limitations. Not every single person. It's not absolute. There's a guy's a plumber, and he goes, listen, I'm just a plumber. Okay, I understand what I can do with my job. I understand how much money I'm going to make. I'm not going to be Elon Musk. The left says, I'm a plumber. Why aren't I a billionaire? It's like, well, because you're a plumber, dude. Some people are these crazy intellects and workhorses that do things, and some people just aren't. Some people are really dumb, but work really hard and find success. The number one factor was always perseverance. That's the problem with the left. They genuinely believe in a communist utopia where if it weren't for these parasite billionaires, everything would be perfect because they've never actually tried to manage a business. And they don't understand why HR exists. You know what I love is the people who complain about HR and they'll be like, isn't it annoying that they make you watch these workplace, guideline videos about sexual harassment or whatever? And they think the corporations are just doing it. It's actually the law. And so they're like, we're legally obligated to have these. Our insurance company's requiring it. We're legally required to have insurance. So the people who run the companies only have limited control as it is. And my favorite thing about this is having tried to run, or literally having run numerous businesses even to this day. I got to tell you, there are people with gumption and vision, and there are people who don't, and to varying degrees are capable of doing certain jobs. I guarantee you, if you got rid of the billionaires, the entire country goes Mad Max. Yep. They're not billionaires because they're evil parasites. They're billionaires because they're smart, they work, and they build they build management systems.
Sure, and there are evil parasites that become billionaires, and they can do immense amount of damage because when you have that amount of power, your actions are amplified. But that doesn't mean that it's the richness that's doing.
If they're evil parasites, how do they get into such positions of power?
Well, they might inherit it. They might become twisted through the process of getting their money.
Like George Soros.
Greed, betraying people in business. You didn't sign it, or you signed what you thought you didn't, and I don't care.
That is fake. That's not real. That doesn't exist.
But getting someone to sign something they didn't understand?
Yep.
I don't.
That is a trope. That is not real. I explain this all the time.
You can manipulate people in business
no,
pretty easy.
I explain this all the time, dude. People think This is one of the things that I think separates. At least there's a scale of capability in running a business. If you live in the world where you're like, if it's written on paper and signed, it's law, you are going to hold yourself back because the people that are running systems aren't thinking in these terms, and these terms are not correct. Elon Musk doesn't sit there and say, I am bound by these walls. Elon says, what must you do to get to point A from point A to point B? But I'll put it this way. If you trick someone into signing a contract, you know what's going to happen? They will not abide by the contract. And then you can try to sue them, and a judge will say, are you joking? And throw it out, and you got to pay their legal fees.
But if you're not tricking them, they just don't read the contract. Normal people, like plebs, they don't have
Ian,
acumen, and they don't have money for a lawyer.
Ian, if you're a billionaire, right, and you're dealing with someone else who is on a similar level with you, that guy has a team of lawyers that's going to deal with with any kind of contracts. When they're talking about when we were talking about the situation that Donald Trump was in, right? So when he did the what's it called? The deal in Florida, right, for Mar-a-Lago. And there was the company, the bank that he did the deal with, right? Like they both said, we are happy with this.
You mean the Deutsche Bank building in New York?
Oh, so yeah, I'm sorry.
He was building a building in New York, and they argued that he gave the wrong square footage. Yeah. Here's the important thing to understand.
But they're both sophisticated participants. You don't get a sophisticated participant dealing with a pleb.
Well, if you're hiring them, that's what I'm talking about.
But you're not going to make $1 million or billions of dollars as if you're a billionaire and you're just hiring someone.
So let's break it down, Ian. If I said, Ian, let's do a music contract. I'll give you 10% of profits generated after cost, and you went, got it. I didn't trick you. If you then later go, how come I'm only getting 10%? You tricked me. I say, no. Whether you understood or didn't isn't my problem. I made you an offer.
Right. The ethics
in good faith. It's not about
like
ethics.
As a friend, you'd be like, hey,
communist BS. This is the communist
BS.
BS.
As a friend, if it was friends and you were talking with the guy, you'd be like, 10%'s too low. They're going to offer you 10. You have to push back to get 20 or 30. But when you're the business partner, you don't tell them that ahead of time because you want them to take 10%.
And if the person agrees to the terms,
it's not really. It's just.
It's not evil at all.
Cutthroat. I mean, you do.
It's not cutthroat
money,
at all.
You know?
This is communism. This is my problem with communists. Is that I'm looking at the products that we make, and let's just say skateboards, and I say, here's our cost to make it. Here's how much money we have to generate after the fact. We got to pay staff. We need to have a rainy day fund, so we need to generate X amount of dollars per sale. I can offer you X amount of dollars per board. They go, okay. They sign the deal. Then when the money comes in and the business generates $4 million and they get paid out $100,000, they go, whoa, but how did you get $4 million? And you say, we got to pay insurance. We got to pay property taxes. We got to pay for products. We got to pay for marketing. We got to pay all these things. And they go, I think that's not fair. You ripped me off. You're evil.
You took the risk. You put your house up, whatever you done.
Right.
You put your money up on the table. They don't, right?
So
and then they complain, I didn't understand. I was only going to get paid this much.
Tell me if you think this is evil. If you are working with you're trying to do a deal with a company and you know, shit, if they sign with that other company, I'm not going to be able to get this deal. So you don't tell them about that other company. You just get them to sign your contract really fast. And then later they find out there was another opportunity that you knew about.
Why is that evil?
People might say that because it's just business. But in a human way, that would be a horrible thing to do to a friend, a person that you care about. So that's where they think it's like that would be, you consider it evil and how
they're a cutthroat businessmen for sure. I'm just arguing in the simple of so often a lot of people enter into contracts that I just watched this movie called Dead Money with Emil Hirsch, and there's a really interesting legal question that arises at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert! So the movie's only a year old, but you get a spoiler. I'll keep it light. Basically, there's two bad guys, and they're trying to steal. I'll use an arbitrary amount of money so I don't spoil the movie for you guys. Let's say there's $1 million, and they say he's like, "Hey, I'm going to pay you $100,000 to do this job." The guy says, "I want half," and he goes, "Half? Are you nuts?" Okay, fine, you can have half, $500,000. Later, when they rob the joint, they come back with $3 million, and he goes, "Okay, now I'm going to give you your $500,000." The guy says, "No, I said half." And he goes, "No, half of the first number. We got extra. I'm giving you $100,000." Now he wants, he wanted 500. Now he's asking for 1.5, and there's an argument over what was the actual terms. So that was an interesting way to look at the legal issue. The guy, the stupid guy, is like, "You said half," and he goes, "No, you said half, and then I offered you 100." You said yes, so you get 100. Or I'm sorry, 500. Whatever. You get the point. I'm going to say this before we move on to the next subject. The main point of this is when you say things like someone entered into a contract because they didn't understand it, and that's not a real thing. If you enter into a contract and I put something malicious or untoward or even unreasonable in it, the judge will rip that contract up in 2 seconds. If I said, Ian, if I made you sign a contract for music that also granted me power of attorney, the whole thing's going to get torn up in court.
I mean,
judge is going to say that's a ridiculous contract.
I think a lot of terms of service are ridiculous, but
and they all get torn up in court
if they get challenged. Sometimes people just play along; they just go along with it to get.
Yes, because but no one needs to challenge these things. Terms of service is the reason nobody reads them is because nothing happens ever from them. The point is, if you were tricked into bad terms, those terms will be voided in a second.
Yeah, that's probably a bad example of an evil corporate overlord tricking people into signing contracts. They just will, need to know basis. If you didn't hear it from me, sign it quick. False sense of urgency. That's done in business a lot. Here's the other thing evil people can do in business to get ahead.
This is the other thing a lot of people don't realize too. If I entered into a contract with somebody and then I thought those terms unfavorable, you can renegotiate the terms at any point. At any point. You know why? All that matters is you get the balls to do it. So I've entered into contracts before, and then I'll keep the description of these contracts light. Signed a deal, and then it turns out they were trying to pull revenue that I didn't expect them to pull, that they'd argued did fall into the terms. And so I simply responded very politely with, okay, well, you're never going to do that again. And we're going to make sure that's clear. It doesn't. And they said, well, Tim, you signed the contract. And I said, if you want to go to war, I will make you regret it. Let's be nice right now and say we're not playing that game. Okay, no problem. So if you want to sit there and just say, drat, you tricked me and you're taking my money from me, sure, people are going to rip you off left and right. But if you actually challenge any of these people, it never even goes to court.
That's what I'm talking about. People will rip those people off left and right. Not everybody, but the opportunism and the human behavior is.
And that's why it's even worse when a government has unilateral authority to put a gun in your mouth if you don't listen.
Or a corporation.
Corporations can't do that.
I mean, the East India Company did that for 150 years in India.
You're talking about war
biggest
in
military
foreign
on the
countries.
Planet. It was the biggest military on the planet.
You're talking about war in foreign countries.
It was just conquest.
You're talking about war in foreign countries.
You're talking about the British creating a corporation that became bigger than the British Empire.
And they weren't going to their citizens and stealing from them. They were just going to foreign countries and invading. You're talking about war in foreign countries versus contract law. They're completely different things.
Well,
in the United States, we have constitutional protections and rights. Sure, they're eroding, but it is still always going to be better to have a corporation as opposed to a government, despite the fact the corporations are still bad.
I think it's the same thing. It's just
a
different
wrong
word. It just depends on the size of the military and how many people are running it.
Hey, Ian, just so you know, the East India Company, their rule of India ended in 1858 when the British Crown just said, we're seizing your property.
Yeah.
It was the government that actually had the ability to say, hey, you're no longer in charge here. We're the ones that are in charge.
They let them run.
And additionally, Ian, what you're arguing is that a totalitarian corporate authority, you're arguing it is a government.
Technically, it's a type of.
Then you're saying government is bad.
Oh, no. Totalitarian government is bad, whether it's corporate or otherwise.
So there's no such thing as you're playing a semantic game.
Maybe. I don't mean to be,
right.
but
that's why
I think we are, because we're both talking about totalitarianism really is the problem. Whether it's your government that you elected or a corporation that you didn't, if it's totalitarian, that's.
So you're talking about a totalitarian system that seized control and you're calling it a corporation.
I'm not like
I am not at all concerned about Walmart violating my rights.
Really? What about Alphabet?
A little bit, maybe. It's big corporations, monopolistic powers are bad.
What's that?
Big corporations with monopolistic powers are bad.
No, we've had to
no one from Google is going to come and put a gun in my mouth and steal my money from me.
No one from Amazon isn't your enemy, right? Like Amazon is a massive corporation. They do business with like 300. They service like 300 million people worldwide. They have couple million employees. Google is unique in that it is a technology company, and it's got so much access to information because of the security, because people trust it with security things like, so that way they can do banking, and so that way they can have access to passwords and stuff like that. But technology companies like that are unique compared to just about every other type of corporation in the world.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.